This holiday season, get ready to unwrap the most magnificent holiday homes with Homeworthy's 25 Days of Christmas. For the month of December, we'll take you inside the most heartwarming houses, decked out for the holidays in true festive fashion. From twinkling lights and elegantly trimmed trees to sparkling ornaments and cozy holiday charm, these homes capture the warmth, wonder, and beauty that make this season so special. So join us as Homeworthy celebrates 25 Days of Christmas. The magic starts now.
Raise your glass. Cheers! Merry Christmas! Happy holidays!
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Scott and you're very welcome to my home here in Northern Ireland. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, I'm Scott Griffin and welcome to my home here in County Tyrone, Northern Ireland. I'm an interior designer and also a musician, and you are very welcome to my home. So this home is the family home and it's been in the same family for generations. It was built in 1923 and I took over this house from my cousin during COVID times. When I moved in, it was quite bland, it needed a little work. But over the years, I've kind of made it very homely, added my own personality, and I'm really happy with what I've created. We're kind of off-grid here. It's in the middle of nowhere. Google Maps almost can't find us. But it's really great. There's a lot of wildlife in the gardens. There's pheasants, there's sheep. The odd cow turns up. So yeah, it's just a really, really beautiful place. It's a real dream location. You're near the river as well, and there's lots of nice walks around the fields. So for me, it's just going back in time. You know, I like to go to the city, but I like to come back and just totally chill out. And this really is the place for chill out time. Welcome to the main entrance hall of my home. So this hallway has some amazing features. The first thing I'm going to tell you about are the original quarry tiles. Now these were actually put down when the house was built in 1923 and they've never been touched since. So there is no membrane. And so I believe, because I know from walking over them with bare feet, it can get quite cold in the winter. And not only the winter, in the summertime, it can be quite cool. So I do believe that there's actually just the earth and they just put on top. But you know what? There's such a special feature to this house. And what I really like, and I'm quite a romantic, I think, of all the people, all the family members and friends that have walked over these over the years. I just think it's a really beautiful thing. So we have the top hat. Now, my dad is a big collector of top hats. And growing up, he'd have boxes of top hats and tailcoats everywhere because he loved the Victorian era and, of course, Sherlock Holmes. So I thought for this Christmas, let's have a bit of fun. I actually got all this fresh conifer tree from the garden. I cut it up into pieces and then just found some simple copper baubles which are actually in the attic for a real long time and just reused them. And then of course I thought the perfect place to put the top hat is there. It's a little bit theatrical, but we like theatrical. So moving around. When I moved in, these walls were in really bad condition, so we actually had to get them all stripped off and replastered, which was a really messy job, but it was something that needed to be done. And also a lot of the electrics needed to be rewired because it was such an old house. So everything is up to modern safety standards. So moving through here, I actually found this in a junk shop. I do believe it's French. But what had happened was the actual marble top had a massive split in it. So with a bit of glue and a bit of touch-up colouring, you can't actually tell. But it's actually a really great piece and I think it just fits there perfectly with enough space to walk through. Of course, my lovely horse, again, that was a little find from an interior shop and I just think he's absolutely class. So we move through and Again, I love shells and I love organic stuff. So I thought, yeah, why not put some shells and baubles with a bit of lights, you know, fairy lights, just to kind of give it a bit of a lift for Christmas. You know, it's wide enough, but at the same time, it just needed a bit of a lift there because you can't put big pieces of furniture. Now, what's really special is this Carrick-Macross lace. So this is Carrick-Macross lace, and Carrick-Macross is in County Monaghan, which is the next county over from me in Tyrone. Now, so I do believe, the Carrick-Macross lace factory, I do believe it's still running. And in the 1800s, the St. Louis learnt the girls and the women this trade of how to sew all this lace. I'm not completely up on the history 100%, but I do know a little bit. And Queen Victoria gave a piece of it to her son Albert, I do believe. And then ever since, the royal family, there's a royal family connection with Carrick-Macross lace. Even Princess Diana and Kate Middleton, I think they've taken Carrick-Macross lace designs onto their wedding gowns, which is just an incredible thing to think royalty and Carrick-Macross have that connection that a lot of people don't know about. So this piece is actually a vintage piece of Carrick-Macross lace, and it's just really pretty. It depicts a swan, and I just think it's really, really cute. Again, I found these in my garden. These grow every year under the trees, and I just think they are beautiful. The way the light shimmers on them, like you'd almost think they've been painted, but actually that is the natural look. And again, a glass jar filled with shells that I found on the beach over the years. So that's a really good place, you know, chuck your shells in a vase like that, and you got a piece of art there. This is some vintage wallpaper I found. Actually, it was on a reduction rail a couple of years ago, and I decided I just really liked the floral pattern. I'm not really into big florals usually, but in this house I felt that it works really, really well. And also it complements this vintage door with this original, well, I wouldn't say stained glass, I'd say just tinted glass with a bit of texture. We've got the original handles here as well. The door doesn't close completely. It needs a bit of DIY, but hey, that's something I can do over the holiday season. But again, I just love the way the light comes through that glass, especially at night time, because it gives that nice warm orange glow. So this is a traditional Irish farmhouse. It has 3 windows upstairs at the front, 2 downstairs with the door right in the middle. These farmhouses would have been seen all over Ireland, but as the years have gone on, a lot have fallen into disrepair, a lot have been knocked down. So to actually find a home like this, in this condition, with a lot of original features is a really beautiful thing. I decided to keep as many original features. I didn't want a new look, I didn't want a modern look. I wanted to keep the traditional approach and save as much as I could. Welcome to my sitting room. So this would be the most formal sitting room in my home, which I really, really love. Firstly, I just love the tree behind me. It's actually a 10-foot tree and is literally touching the ceiling of this room. But for me, it's Christmas, you know, it's the holiday season, let's go big. This room can actually take it, so why not? So I'll talk you through little bits around this room. So this room used to be very traditionally styled, and it had a really old manky carpet on the floor. So when I moved in, I decided, do I replace it with a new carpet, or should we actually see what was under the carpet? So actually, I lifted the carpet and discovered the original floorboards. Now the original floorboards weren't in the best of condition, but what I found really easy and quite cheap to do was to actually whitewash them, paint them, and actually just give the room a completely different feel. And then I suppose this sort of European influence sort of set in on me. When I did that floor, a couple of days later, I found this beautiful crystal chandelier. And this is just, I think it was the real catalyst of the whole room actually. It's just the way it shines and glistens and sparkles, especially at Christmas time, it's just beautiful. So that chandelier came the one day, and then a couple of days later, I found this in a thrift shop. And what I particularly found beautiful about this was firstly the shape of it. It's a really beautiful wingback, but actually the fabric. It was actually the original fabric, but the actual wood section was a mahogany wood. It was very, very dark and a little bit, I don't know, just dated. So by just changing the color, I sanded it down and just painted it. I saved the fabric, and look, it just works so well in this room. Now, talking about original features in this room, this was the original fireplace from when the house was built. I do believe it's an arts and crafts fireplace, possibly rosewood, and it's been there ever since. Now, the tiles inside it had been messed around with, I do believe, in the late 70s, 80s. So the original tiles were no longer here, and they were kind of a very dark blue. They weren't very nice. So when I was painting the floor, I actually used the same paint to paint the tiles, and it was actually a tile and wood paint. That's been done a couple of years, and actually, as you can see, after numerous fires, it's actually held out very well. So if you ever need to update something and you don't want to spend a huge amount, paint can work magic. So that is the story of my fire. So now I'm going to talk about my mantle, my Christmas mantle, of course. So I really enjoy buying busts. I think busts really show, I suppose, the personality of people maybe of a bygone time. So this actually is a resin bust, just to say. But I found this on a road trip in Glastonbury in the UK a couple of years ago. And I just really like the look of it. I think it's really quite arty and quirky. So when I actually redesigned this room, it was the perfect place to sit it there. Now, I've just used some faux garland here for the simple reason the real fire, it would actually dry it out so quickly if it was real. And of course, my little wreath. Now, what's really cool about this little pencil sketch is actually a study. And on the back of this study is another sketch of another figure. This is roughly from 1915, and there's actually a little signature and date on it, which I think is really nice. And it survived such a long time. So I thought, again, it works so well in this room, and it just sits there really quietly. It's really nice. So then we talk about the main tree. Now, it is very grand and beautiful, but I didn't want to put too much color on it. I think sometimes too much color can kill something good. So quite neutrally done. And what I wanted to do was make these lovely velvet ribbons. I think it just makes it look so classic. So it's really nice drinking a glass of wine at night and you just see the sparkle of the tree, and you know the holiday season is here. Okay, so this tree took around 5 hours from start to finish, you know, and there was snow everywhere. Of course, it wasn't real snow. But and the other thing is, if you ever put trees up with snow, don't wear black, because it's a terrible thing to get it off your clothes, you know, at the end. But yeah, so it took, you know, a long time to do, but there's roughly 450 ornaments on this tree. It just fills it out really, really nicely. And again, I made these velvet bows, which add a bit of class to it. And I think it just makes it sparkle. And it gives a bit of a traditional element too. So I'm really liking that tree. Now, as we move around, this rug we're actually standing on, I actually had this bespokely made. This is by a very well-known Northern Irish carpet manufacturer, Ulster Carpets. So I went in and I found this beautiful, this carpet, and then just had it made into a rug. So it just suits the room so nicely. Down here is something very, very cute. This actually, it is not taxidermy, this is actually a French Lulu dog, pajama dog. So I do believe it's from maybe I'll say the middle of the 1800s. I just think he's so cute, and he looks at you, he's really, really cute. So the story goes, children used to keep their pajamas in this and then put it on their bed. But I think it's such a beautiful little addition, especially in the holiday season, just to kind of sit as a bit of humour under that sofa. So we move around this room now. Again, I found these stag's horns from an interior shop. I love the fact actually they're presented in a slightly different way, not the usual traditional way. So just that painted look. Now, this is my little mini bar. It needs actually filling up for the holiday season, but I'll have to get shopping very, very soon. But I want to show you something quite special and quite, what's the word, how would I describe this? Well, unique to County Tyrone. It is Tyrone crystal. Now, in County Tyrone, there's a factory just near Dungannon, which is not too far away from here, that would actually produce this crystal ware. So this is a little Christmas bell, along with some Tyrone wine glasses. So I like to put those out at Christmas time. And when I have old relatives who are locally, like they live very, very close by, they love to see the Tyrone crystal because it reminds them of when they were children and they were growing up. And to own a piece of Tyrone crystal in the old days was a really big thing. So that's this room, and now we are going to move into my breakfast room. So for my holiday decor, I usually start around the start of November because I like to put on a nice Christmas show. I like to forage through the woodlands and the fields and find a lot of organic produce. I like to dry flowers out. I usually do that probably in the summertime. But as you come into the autumn, there's a lot of branches, a lot of like moss as well. Like we're famous for our moss on the grass. There's more moss than actual grass, I'd say here. But I'd like to dry it out and then make little floral displays and just arrange it around in wreaths around the house. I like to use fresh as much as I can. The Christmas trees, this one is a faux tree. And the reason for this in the background is that there's actually a real fire in the room and it would actually dry the tree out. But in the other room, I've actually used a real fir tree, which I think looks so stylish and so elegant. So for me, Christmas, yeah, I just like to use white lights. I think they just are a classic. They just look timeless. And yeah, just lots of candles. That's a real nice thing. It adds a bit of atmosphere to the house. So now we move into my breakfast room. It's such a multifunctional space actually. I call it the breakfast room because obviously I eat my breakfast at the table, but at the same time I play my piano here. So it's kind of a bit of a music room as well. Actually, it's the home office as well some days. It depends on the mood I'm in. So sometimes I just sit there, I drink my cups of tea and do my work on the laptop. So it's really, really great space. There's moody tones in this room. It's actually an arts and crafts colour. Which I decided to use in this room, which again works so perfectly with this house because of course it's from that era. Okay, so this is a beautiful mixed media painting by a Northern Irish artist. And this artist has actually incorporated sections and pieces of the farmyard, so bits of mud and straw into this painting. And what I love about it is just the vibrancy. It's just full of colour. And it just really pops out at you, you know? I didn't want to put too much typically farmhouse stuff into my design for this house because I see the farmyard every day and I just wanted to, you know, come away from that and put my own personality into it. But I really just think it's a great piece. Of course, I'm loving the blue and white. Blue and white, as you know, is a classic, is a timeless thing. And I love to use blue and white throughout the house. You'll see it. I just think it's a great thing to use. So this is my sort of like area of certain memories. These would be family members. These would be my like great aunt and uncle here. And there's a communion day here. This old lady here, as this was her communion day, which is really, really beautiful to have those pictures and memories. When I was in the band, I was in quite a well-known band at the time, Rula Bula. We were a 5-piece band and we toured Ireland and we even got as far as America. But then, as you know, as we get older, we all take different routes in our lives, so we no longer played together. But this was actually taken in Croke Park a couple of years ago, and we were playing, I think, to an audience of 60,000 people, which was an amazing time. This is my vintage electric violin. I don't actually use it too much in public. It's a beautiful one it's actually an American original Barkasberry violin. This is from roughly the 1970s. And yeah, I've had that a number of years and it's just a great piece and I just love the colour. So as we move up here, I had this built not too long ago. It's actually, it was just a very open space. So I decided, let's frame it with shelves. And almost now we have a piece of art in itself. A lot of these pieces were actually boxed away for years in the attic. I didn't know where to put them. So after redesigning this and having this built, I thought, let's put all these items on the shelves. And as you can see, they work really, really well. And actually, I think it breaks the sitting room into the breakfast room up really, really nicely. So as we move through the pieces, we have some vintage books. I love collecting vintage books. They all tell a story. They're actually cheap enough to pick up these days, and I just love the colour and the texture of the books, and even the smell of the old books can be quite nice. We have the very famous poet, writer Robbie Burns with his lover here. I do believe this is old Staffordshire flatback china, which is so not on trend at the moment. But I just love to use things that are not on trend. I try and work against the trend a lot of the time. I like to set the trends if I can. I just think Staffordshire is so nice. It's very reasonable as well at the moment. But they tell a story, and again, they're so old. Again, we have some books from the 1930s, parliamentary debates. I don't know how I even found those books, but again, they are actually very interesting to read and really quite quirky. Moving around, I have two of these. The other one's actually packed away at the moment. This is, I do believe, French. It's a French painting. Anything with dogs or wildlife or cats, I just love. And I do believe it's a study painting by students, maybe in art college. But it's really well painted. And again, I just love the moody tones in it. And I wonder whose pet was that and what actually was his name or her name. I just think it's really, really beautiful. We move around to the Christmas goose. I actually got this from a flea market a couple of years ago. And when I saw him, I thought, wow, isn't he class? So yeah, he comes out every Christmas time. The old Christmas goose. Do I have a name for him? We'll call him Paddy. Okay, this is the heart of the house. This is the agar. This has been in the house for a very, very long time. Of course, it's vintage. The colour, I suppose there's this love-hate relationship I've had with it. Sometimes I think I love it, other times I hate the colour. But I suppose as the time's gone on and what I've done with this room, it actually sits very beautifully in this room. Yes, you can cook on this, you can keep your tea warm. And actually this is a soda, an Irish soda bread I actually cooked in there yesterday evening. So in here is the oven section. And actually, I think with anything like an agar, Rayburn, or anything like a stove, the actual taste of the cooking tastes so much better compared to like an electric cooker. Up here we have some garden finds, some dried hydrangeas and other little bits I found over in the garden and in the fields, and I just dried them out. And again, it just sits so beautifully there. And I think if we just look around what we have in our gardens, we can actually bring so much in and create so many beautiful things. If I didn't pick that, it would have just rotted and gone back to the earth, but let's just hold on to that for a little longer. Of course, we have the wingback. I love wingback chairs. For some reason, I think they just sit in the room so beautifully. This one is actually vintage fabric, I do believe from the 1990s. It's in superb condition. I picked that up a couple of years ago as well from a flea market, and I just think it's really just so nice. The oranges and the yellows, they just look great. This is the very famous Michelangelo's David. I picked this up last year after a trip to Florence in Italy. I actually went to the David Museum, which was kind of up a side street. I was expecting this big, museum, but it's actually up a side street, tucked away. But I remember I went in, it was like winter time and it was freezing cold. It was a beautiful day, the snow was down. And I went into this museum and David was stood there, and it was a really moving experience. It was quite emotional because the detailing in all the marble was just so beautiful. And I just sat there on a bench and just stared at him for, I don't know how long, maybe half an hour, and just like, wow, he's so big there. So yeah, that was the inspiration for this. Now behind David, we have this little skip find. Yeah, I actually found this on a skip, I don't know, about 10 years ago. I was driving down a road and there was a house being renovated and there were rugs chucked on the skip. They were too bad to pick up, too bad a condition. But this really stood out to me. So a lot of my friends, we've always had this debate in the house. Is it Christ or is it just one of us? I don't know. Who is this person? I don't know. But I just think the way it's painted is beautiful and there's a real mood to it. Again, as we move around here, we have garden finds. I put this into some oasis, so this will keep fresh for hopefully a couple of weeks. And it just really looks nice and just fills out the window really, really nice. And this is a watercolor. It's not an original, but it is a watercolor of the Englishman at the Moulin Rouge. And I just think it's great. I just love the colors. It ties in so nicely with this room. It sits very gracefully there. And yeah, I often think, what is that conversation that he's having with those ladies? I don't know, but it's quite an interesting piece. So now I'm going to talk to you about the farmhouse table. In any farmhouse, I think you really need to have a farmhouse table. This actually is a really solid piece, and this has been in the house for, well, as long as I know. It's a really good sturdy piece. I have actually, not so long ago, maybe a year or two ago, sanded it right back because it's getting a bit, stained and grimy. There's actually a couple of stains if you look close now. But I stripped it right back. It's a pine table. And then I just used beeswax, which really gives a nice finish and actually is a good waterproof sealer as well. So yeah, it's a really great one. It's great to have gatherings around, and it's just really sets the scene for this farmhouse sitting breakfast room. So from a young age, I was always into interior design, but obviously when you're about 5 or 6, you don't quite know what the word interior design means. But as a child, I was always moving furniture around, driving my parents completely crazy. And then I got into painting. I just love painting. I love painting pictures. Then it ended up, painting bits of furniture. So yeah, as I kind of got older, I got into interior design more. And then more recently in COVID times, I really decided to go full out and set up a business, Brimming Interior Design, which is an interior design business. I do residential and commercial work. People ask me, what does the word Birimian stand for? Well, there actually is no other Birimian word in the dictionary, I don't think. But I actually took this inspiration from one of the last High Kings of Ireland, Brian Boru. So the first part of that word, Boru, and then room, Birimian, interior design. As well as interior design, I am also a musician. I started piano when I was about 5 or 6, and then violin when I was about 9 or 10. So it's been a long journey for me with the music and just being creative, and the two work so beautifully together. I just love being creative, whether I'm writing music, singing, playing music, or painting, designing. It all comes together so naturally and so nicely. We're now in my dining room. Throughout the year, I was using this actually as a study, but Christmas time, of course, you have friends and family calling. I thought, let's make it back into the dining room, which is what it would have been in its day. Now, I tried to keep this very organic and tried, just to keep it really, really relaxed. I wanted to have a bit of a sort of Hollywood Regency look with a few metallics going on, but then, you know what, Mother Nature called again, and I just thought, let's just use all fresh garlands and the tree just to keep it really, really natural. So yeah, this smoked glass table, I recently sourced, and I just love smoked glass, especially at Christmas time. You think of the smoky eye look. I just think it's really, really great. Now, the table is not set for Christmas Day, of course. This actually is set for the holiday season. I like to have little sort of wine parties, tea parties. So this table would be how I'd actually present it to my friends or my family. So just very simple, cakes, This is an Irish bomb brack, chocolates, and of course the wine, just to keep it very informal. These leather chairs, they're a stunning petrol blue. These are by a really good friend of mine, Paul Connolly Furniture, who is a furniture maker who lives not too far from me. And these sit beautifully with these metallic chairs. I wanted to go for something a little bit sparkly in this room. Now, as we move around here, this is a French desk going back to the 1800s, and I just love this piece. Now, I actually bought this from Dublin a couple of years ago, even though it's from France. It's actually a friend of mine, Geraldine. She's an antique dealer, and she was selling this one Sunday morning at her market in Blackrock. And I just fell in love with it. I just thought, wow, where would you find one of those here in Ireland? At the time, I was driving a coupe car. So how do you fit that into a coupe car? Well, I was very, very lucky. The legs actually unscrewed this side, so I managed to kind of arrange it, push it in with a bit of the boot open, and I managed to get it home. So I'm just delighted with that piece. These are Georgian candles. They're like a copper, I think a copper sort of element to them. They're very, very old, and what's really, really cool about this is they're actually a pair, because as you know, a lot of antique pairs, one gets lost along the way. So to find a pair is pretty cool. So I have the responsibility now to make sure that I keep them as a pair and I don't lose one. Moving around here, we have this little demi-lune table. This was originally a wood. I painted it black. It was just too bad to fix. It just required a lot of filling in and sanding down. So I just thought, you know what, let's just paint it black. But it ties in so well with this room. It's the look I wanted to go for. Again, we have the matching fireplace as in my sitting room. This is again another arts and crafts fireplace, but this time we have the original tiles. Again, I just love that burgundy tile. I just think it looks stunning. There's a few little cracks and imperfections on them. Maybe in time I'll get that fixed up, but for now it really doesn't bother me. I'm really happy with it. Again, we got the fresh garland from the garden, which just sits there so nicely. And again, my fir tree, which I'm very happy with this year. I called the guy up, I said I'd like a really nice tree. He came onto my land and cut it down earlier this week. Hopefully now this will last all through the holiday season. I just love it. Again, I just wanted to keep it simple, just the white lights and just the simple ribbons. It just works so beautifully. This is my French tapestry. Now I actually got this from an auction a couple of years ago. It was actually during COVID times, and of course we couldn't actually go to the auction, so it was an online auction. And when I went to collect it, I thought it would fold up into my, and just put it into my car, but actually it's actually on a really nice board, a good chunky board with some padding and some beautiful French bordering around the fabric bordering. It's obviously depicting, they're making wine, red wine. So this really was made for me because I just love drinking red wine. It's a really great piece. I think there's so many nice colours in it, and it goes with a lot of actual items and different colours, so yeah. Moving here, this is just an old china cabinet. I just keep a few little odds and ends in it. It's actually been in this house for a very long time, and it's in super condition, so I didn't paint it and I don't want to paint it. It's just a really nice piece that sits there, and of course it's part of the history of this house, so yeah, it can sit there nicely. As we move around here, there are some Italian sacred hearts, which I bought on a recent trip to Italy. This one is roughly from around 1850, 1870, and this one would be similar age as well. GR is on this one, and so I was told it means grace received. So I am very spiritual. There is a religious element to me, but for me this is also art, and they just sit there nicely, and again, they just all tie in so well. So Christmas Day is similar kind of vibes going on in here. We like to try and keep it a little bit informal, but of course, after we open our presents, we do like to have the dinner in here. So a traditional dinner here in Ireland would be, of course, your roast turkey and ham, along with stuffing. I don't do sprouts. I can't stand the taste of sprouts. But everything else, carrots, cabbage and everything are all put onto the table. And before that, obviously, we have a starter. It might be a prawn and cocktail, or it could be sort of a breaded mushroom recipe, which is quite nice as well. And then, of course, the wine is flowing. And then we finish off with traditional Christmas pudding. So this house wouldn't be particularly decorated in a farmhouse style, something that you wouldn't necessarily think from the outside. But for me, I like to travel around Europe mainly, and I do like to go to America now and again. But for me, I wanted to bring my personal experiences and memories, I suppose, into this house. So for example, if I buy a piece of furniture or an item, I can go, yeah, I remember where I got that from, and it reminds me of that time. So it's a really beautiful thing. So the house definitely has a bit of an explorer feel, I'd say. I've wanted to use a lot of colour. At the same time, I've used a lot of colours, arts and craft colours as well, which would have been from this time that this house would have been built. So for me, it's been a real exciting time, and yeah, I've just put my personality into this. For me, the holidays is about meeting friends and family and having gatherings, whether it's music gatherings, little sessions, or just having dinner parties or tea parties. And it's about connecting. I think Christmas and the holiday season is a real nice time where we can all join together, share our stories, because life, as you know, gets so busy and we're like on a hamster wheel and we're constantly spinning around, and it's a good time just to kind of sit down and chill out. So for me, it's definitely about the people around us. I'm now entering my rear hall. This is actually the first space I decided to design when I moved in here. It's quite moody, it's quite dark, there's no actual windows. So this is the original farmhouse door, which would enter you out into the farmyard at the back rear of the property. What I'm really loving about this is the original door, and actually this little latch. You know, there's so much character there. I just think it's wonderful that we still have that. Again, if I just replaced that, we'd actually lose the character. So why would I do that? I think it's great to have these little quirky features in this farmhouse. Again, we have the original quarry floor tiles. They actually add a sense of warmth. I think they're so nice. I dressed them up with this Persian rug. I had this in my bedroom as a child. It belonged to my grandparents, and it's always followed me everywhere I've gone, every house I've ever lived in. That has somehow been in one of my designs. It's really, really nice. Now I'm going to talk to you about this 1920s Indonesian shadow puppet. I have actually two more of these which I don't have on display, but when I found these are really interesting. I just love, they're actually like a tin they're made out of, and I just love all the colours that are used in there. This helped really influence my sort of vision for this little space. A friend of mine not so long ago gave me these as a present. These, I do believe, are Chinese New Year decorations. They're full of colour, full of character, and I just think they're really, really nice. And they sit on this little tree with the tea lights so well. And yeah, you know, Chinese New Year, you know, it's the holiday season. Let's all celebrate. It's an amazing time. It's really, really cool. This is a little Victorian bamboo table. I picked this up, I can't even remember where, but again, I've had this for like ever. It's just a great little table, a nice little motif on the top of it. You can't really see that because of all the stuff on it, but it's really, really quirky. And of course, the camel stool. I've had that again for years, and it's just a really, really nice piece. And what I'm really loving about this, there's this sort of vintage fabric, and of course leatherette, and I just think it's really, really nice. It's just suits the room so nicely. We've got this little colourful chandelier. Again, I just wanted to add a little bit more colour into this space because it is such a dark room with no lights as such. This is actually a very special piece. Merry Christmas. This is from the 1940s. I think it's been in the family a really, really long time. So every Christmas, I I put this out and I just think it's just really beautiful. I just love the Christmas turkey, the Santa, the little church, and of course all the little toys and the little dog there I think is really, really cute. So yeah, it's just such a nice little Christmas piece. And of course it's vintage at this point. So yeah, it's a nice one to keep. So now I'm going to take you into my kitchen. Here we go. So this is the Farmhouse kitchen, which actually I have had recently redesigned. I designed it myself. For many years it was the usual sort of kitchen with the units all along, and this room doesn't get much daylight. It can be quite dark, and I just wanted something a little extra special. And actually, I just wanted to take it back into a sort of a farmhouse kitchen, along with this sort of beadboarding, because I think in a lot of Irish farmhouses, we would have seen this traditional beadboarding used. And I just think it looks so good. So I had the open shelves idea. I can store my, pasta on it, some herbs and stuff, and also just a few nice little knickknacks. So this belonged to my grandmother. This actual tea, or dinner service, should I say, goes back to around 1900. And when I actually did the research into this, I couldn't believe it, because that looks quite contemporary and really like 1900, so we're talking a long time ago. I actually have the full dinner set. I'll say dinner set. Some of it's in boxes because there's so much of it, but I like to display a certain section of it because it just looks so nice. In the back here as well, we have this Irish spongeware. Now this I actually found in the attic when I was sorting some boxes out. This is roughly, again, from like the 1800s, early 1900s. These would have been made out of clay, and then they would have used sponges or bits of rags or cloth to actually sponge this on. Now, I initially thought they were donkeys, but somebody said they think this is cows. But you know what? Again, this is part of the history of this house, and it's just a really fun piece. Obviously, I don't use that for my cups of tea every day, but it's a real nice decorative piece with so much history. And the other thing is, who has drank out of that over the years? It's just really, really cool. So that's that there. This is sort of the place I do all my baking and cooking. It's actually really, really nice. Now I've redesigned, it's a really nice place to be in here. It's got a nice vibe. We've obviously got my antler chandelier. In this area, there are actually a lot of deer, wild deer. So I just kind of wanted to bring the outside to the inside. I think where I live, it's so mysterious, the landscape. Like today, it's quite foggy outside. It can be very haunting. It can be very beautiful. It can be a lot of things. The summer's very different to the winter. So I do like to incorporate the nature into my home. So as we move along, here's some bread I cooked earlier. I won't be demonstrating that today because it'll take too long, but I do enjoy baking, especially bread. It's quite easy to do. So yeah, it's quite fun. Again, here we have a few Frenchy items, comfy pots. My pasta there, I actually got that. I just love different pastas. So when I was in Italy earlier this year, I like to fill my suitcase with a few pastas, dried pastas, and bring them back. So yeah, and this is my little coffee area. I just need coffee in the morning. I'm a coffeeholic. So it's a really great place to keep the coffee machine. So now I am going to I'm going to attempt to demonstrate how to make an Irish coffee. So I'm going to attempt how to make an Irish coffee. A really good friend of mine, Olivia, showed me how to do this several times. So I just hope this is going to work. If it doesn't work, you'll get the idea anyway, and you can try it at home yourself. Okay, so simple ingredients we need for this. We need some whipping cream, okay? So I put some whipping cream in there. It's already been whipped up. The secret ingredient, Jameson's Irish whiskey. Obviously, we need some coffee. I'm going to use instant coffee today just to save time. And of course, we'll need the hot water. So the first thing we need to do is make sure that the actual glass is heated. So I've just put some boiling water in this, and I've just let it settle in there now for a couple of minutes. So I'm going to empty this out. So now we have a nice warm glass. We shall now put some coffee into, let's get a spoon. I'm going to put a nice dollop of coffee because I like a nice strong coffee. So we're going to just put some coffee in the base of that. Okay. Once the coffee's in there, we're going to obviously put the hot water, and I'm going to fill it roughly a quarter full. Okay. The rocket fuel, the whiskey. So I'm going to fill this up 50 ml of Irish whiskey. And we just put that in like that. Okay, I'm now going to just fill this up a little bit more, roughly to about 3/4. Now I'm hoping that I've whipped that cream up enough. We are now going to use the back of the spoon, and we are going to pour this into the coffee. And we keep going until the glass is full. And of course, I have made a complete fool of myself on this episode of Homeworthy, because that's how not to make an Irish coffee. But you get the idea. So basically, the why that kind of was a disaster, the cream wasn't whipped enough. It's just been sitting there a little bit too long. But anyway, we're going to move on now to the next room. What do I love most about this home would be, well, I suppose there's a lot of things I really like. The original features, there are so many that we've lost in this country. A lot have been ripped out and replaced. So it's the originality I particularly like. I think it's a real wonderful thing. I love the high ceilings. I just love good square rooms with high ceilings. It's an incredible thing. And it means you can really, put larger pieces of furniture into these rooms, which I'm always buying furniture. So for me, it's really, really great. You can try out new looks and everything. So yeah, it's just a beautiful home. It's a very cozy home. And I wanted it just to be realistic and friendly and just homely. I think when creating a home, it's important to be realistic to yourself. I know so many people that go for the most expensive carpets or the most expensive paint brands. But for me, does it really matter? At the end of the day, I think if you're true to yourself, I think just be natural. And if you like something, it doesn't have to be $1 million. If it just talks to you, choose it and just make it work in your house. A lot of my pieces around this house are actually pre-loved. I love to upcycle, I love sustainability. So for me, it's amazing how so many stylish pieces all come together and create a beautiful home, and you don't have to spend a huge amount of money. So now we walk up the stairs, and I'm going to show you one of the bedrooms which I have turned into the snug. So here we are in my snug. This used to be one of the bedrooms, but I didn't need this as a bedroom. I just wanted to make it a more multifunctional room, I suppose. So as you come in, you will see this lovely vintage map of Italy. I found this a long time ago, and it's all in Italian, I do believe. And it's always a French. It's either French or Italian, I'm just not looking properly there. But it's really, really beautiful. And I just love to look at that. I love the colors and the vintage tones in it. I wanted to use a really nice sort of petrol-y blue in this room. I think it complements it so well, especially with the high ceiling. It gives a nice sort of masculine feel, and it's a great place just to chill out on a Friday or Saturday evening if you're on your own. So as we move around here, I love to collect interior magazines, and some of these interior magazines go back to the late 80s, and they kind of come up to more recent times, but that's kind of like a little library I have of some of my magazines there. This is a tapestry. Again, I bought this the same day as I bought my other tapestry down in my dining room. And again, I didn't realize how large this piece was. It's huge. So I had to get a van to deliver it for me. But it's a Venice. And again, I just love that sort of time-worn look. It's really, really great and it just really sets the room up so well. Now, this was a family heirloom. It's a Scotch dresser. It's a really, really sturdy piece of furniture. And what I really love about it, you can literally, there's so many drawers that you can throw in stuff. It takes a good weight as well. And it's just, again, it just dresses the room out so nicely. Now, not so long ago, I was up in the attic, which I try not to go in too much because, well, you know, you never know what you might find in the attic. But I found this beautiful print. This actually fell out of a box. It's of the minstrel boy. And the story goes, the little minstrel boy goes to battle with his harp and sword, but unfortunately, he doesn't know what he's faced. So it's a really beautiful story. This story was actually then turned into a song. I do believe in the late 1700s, early 1800s by a poet, songwriter called Thomas Moore. Thomas Moore was educated in White's Academy, which is now on Grafton Street, Bewley's Coffee Shop. It's now Bewley's Coffee Shop. And he then went to Trinity to study law. He quit and he went and pursued his creative career as a writer and songwriter and poet and so on. So I'm really liking that, you know, he used a very ancient song and wrote the lyrics to it. So to find this was really, really beautiful. This is the minstrel boy. So before I talk about anything else, I actually have my violin here. And I'm actually going to play you the minstrel boy. And that's the minstrel boy. So we go back talking to the elements of the room. I found this little piece. This is actually a German piece. I don't know how old it is. I don't usually buy things like this, but actually I love the sort of the story behind this. You know, he's holding another face. Some people have two faces, as we all know. So this is a little reminder that, you know, there are so many nice people in this world, but it's always a good thing to just remember some people have two faces. Now, as we move around here, this is a little mannequin from a draper's shop I bought. Really, really quirky, and I'm loving these wooden arms. And actually, the hands, it's so well made. The hands actually all move as well. So I'm just loving the detailing. It sits there, and I just think it's just a cool, fun piece. Of course, we've got the traditional fireplace, which are in all the bedrooms in this house. Now, I don't actually light these fires, the fires in these fireplaces, because there's carpet on the floor, and in the bedroom areas, I just don't think it's a very good idea. However, I love the character of these. Moving around to my Christmas tree. Now, a really good friend of mine, Christy, she's actually an antiques dealer, gave me these as a birthday present probably 15 years ago. And yeah, it's a birthday present, even though my birthday is in June. But she knows I like quirky things, and it's kind of a bit of a joke that we've got going. But anyway, I'm really liking these are vintage decorations. I love the musical influence throughout. You know, we have guitars, there's a violin somewhere, and I just love the way that they sparkle. So this room is the place where I actually like to put a bit of colour into my decorations. We move on to the Chesterfield sofa. I think Chesterfield sofas are so nice in a room. Again, it's got that masculine tone. I'm just loving the color. Actually very, very comfortable. And it's a two-seater, so it sits comfortably in this room. This is actually a vintage Foxwood Irish knitted blanket. I'm loving the colors. Whoever said blue and green can't be seen, I don't know whoever said that, because I think blue and green work really, really well together. Again, it's really nice and it's really cozy, especially in the winter times. As we move around, we have my little table. I got this from an interior shop. It's Italian. I'm just loving that sort of gold and black vibe. I think gold and black work so beautifully together and it just looks so stylish. You may recognize this little guy here. He is from Alice in Wonderland. I'm always looking at the time, so it's actually the perfect thing just to remind me to do a time check. We move around here and we have my little sort of mini bar area. I like to put little, bottles of rum on here, my little vintage glassware, along with my Florentine tray. I love Florentine trays, the way that they're all painted, they're so pretty. So that's the snug. The word home. For me, the home is a place of, I suppose, is a sanctuary. It's a safe place, it's a safe haven. And I think if we look around the world right now, there's so many people without a home. And for me, I am very honoured and blessed to have such a beautiful home. So for me, it's just a safe place, and it's somewhere I can just lock the door and just feel, I suppose, at peace with myself.
Thanks for watching. Go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content and shopping guides.